Raspberries are a pretty good crop for Sonoma County, I think.
Really?
They come into production pretty early. They're pretty easy to grow. There are some problems, but you know, there's a pretty good market for raspberries.
How long do they take to get to production?
You'll get it coming into production. You'll have some production. Let's say you plant them in January, February, March, April, May, June, July. You know, about 6-7 months. And you'll have more production the following year, but that first year you'll have some production.
And every year you're going to just take them down?
Well, there's different types of raspberries. This plant's going to die back. You can see it's already kind of dead right in here. It's going to die back to about in here somewhere. So you could cut this back and leave this cane here, and it'll send out shoots and have an earlier crop the following year. And then there'll be new ones coming from the ground, and then that'll crop later on in the summer and fall.
And how many canes would you plant in, just say, this section?
I'd plant them about a foot apart.
Foot apart.
Yeah.
That close?
Yeah. The closer you place them together, the quicker it's going to fill in, and the plants aren't that expensive. So.
How much water per day?
Well, you saw the deal that the little formula that I had there, 3 feet wide, 100 feet long, was you know, whatever it was. You'd have to go back and look at the math. But with mini sprinklers, in my place in Sebastopol, I water them for about 20 minutes every day with mini sprinklers. I'm not sure what's in here. No, this is mini sprinklers right here. You might want to come and take a look at this. This is a little mini sprinkler right here. There it is right there on a riser.
Oh, yeah. All right.
And it squirts down and it hits the next one.
Oh, there they are. Okay.
It's got a basic, it's just a little tube that punches in. And it's got this little mini sprinkler on top of it. And if you look at it, the little cap that fits on here, it squirts, you know, one this way and a squirt this way. Just direct the squirt. And that just squirts, that just screws into there. Yeah, and you got to come by every once in a while and make sure that these are open. There's a little tube there, a little hole there. And just go suck them out. They got something in there. Particularly if you got iron in your water, these will plug up a little bit, but they're pretty good actually. And it's I prefer that to drip irrigation. You could get by with drip irrigation, but you should run 2 lines. If you've got drip irrigation, I'd probably just use like a real thick T-tape or something, and then have it offset so you got you know, drippers like that. So basically, you want a solid band of moisture.
So we've got about 5 rows this long, as you may know. I don't know if we've been out to our raspberries, but would you recommend, since we did 2 feet on the initial planting, when we bring them down like that, if it was your garden, would you put another one in?
No, they're going to fill. The fact the raspberries are going to come up in here just thick. The raspberries come up everywhere.
So not
the second year they just like grass.
Yeah, they're
yeah, and very seldom do you ever have weed problems in raspberries because they just grow so thick.
So the 2 drip we have now, if it was your garden, would you bother to put in the sprinklers?
If you got enough water, you have to have more water. You have to have more water because each one of those puts out about the different color codes on those little screw things. But I think that's about 9 or 10 gallons an hour compared to an emitter, which would be 1 gallon an hour or a half gallon an hour. So you got to have enough volume per length of your. Yeah.
Pollinating it? What's the requirement?
Just bees. Just have to have some bees somewhere. Usually there's enough bees in the area. But if you're out here when these are flowering, man, it's just like just sell it.
Right. Paul, ideal time of year to plant?
Any time in the dormant season. You can even plant. You can buy green plants. There's some nurseries that sell little plants in little teeny containers with leaves on them. Okay. So you can almost plant any time. In our climate, almost the worst would be to plant, and then we got 90 degrees the next day, and that wouldn't be good. But other than that, you can plant things.
And then first year planting, do you let them grow and establish and then wait until dormant season to cut them back, or when? Yes,
you wouldn't do hardly any pruning with the first planting. Sometimes when you buy dormant plants, they give you a big, tall dormant plant like that. In the root system, you plant it. I would cut those back to 2 buds because you want to get the bud out. But other than that, wouldn't do any pruning the first year. These are thornless, upright. Look at the upright growth habit on these. This is a variety called Chester, and then this is, I think, boysenberry, I'm not sure, which is a trailing type blackberry. So you can see how they kind of grow differently. Ones, well, these kind of bend over here too a little bit, but a lot of them grow, they grow more upright, they're stiffer. These are nice because they're for pruning, there's no thorns. And they're extremely productive. This is, like I said, a variety called Chester. There's another one that's very similar to this called Hull, H-U-L-L, which is a little sweeter. Problem with Chester is the berries are tart. And even if you pick them dead ripe, you're going, wow, I don't know if I want to put those on my cereal in the morning. But Hull you can, because they're sweeter. And they're about this, the production is just, this is just solid, full of blackberries. The production is really, really high on this. And then these are sweeter, boysenberries are fabulous. They taste really good. But they're difficult to ship because they're soft. Great for pick your own or just selling them locally or not having to go too far. The thing that's nice about Chester is they ship pretty well because it's a firm berry. But then you probably also heard of Driscoll's. You guys have heard of Driscoll's and Driscoll's berries? Well, Driscoll's has put together a breeding program over the last 15 years where they breed new varieties. And then they develop all these new varieties and then they rent the plants to growers. So you don't buy the plants, they rent the plants to growers, you grow them, and then Driscoll's actually takes your fruit and packages it and sells it.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really cool. And they've got all kinds of new varieties. You've seen these raspberries that are kind of orangish in color and yellow, and you're starting to see different blackberries. A lot of that's Driscoll's. And so it's, you can't go buy those plants. You got to go to Driscoll's and contract with them. So it's very, very interesting. In fact, I went to their breeding grounds where they're looking at breeding new plants, and they had a bunch of farm advisors there, and we're standing there looking at them, sort of drooling over, what they had created there. It's not, but if there's no open market, you got to join Driscoll's club. I don't know anybody in Sonoma County that's growing for Driscoll's.
If you wanted to propagate this berry, can you just cut a shoot off and root on it?
Yes, they're very easy to propagate.
Thank you.
I wouldn't recommend you do that. I'd recommend you go to a nursery and buy virus-free plants, because these plants probably have, or there's a potential that they would have some viruses in them, and they're not very expensive. 25 plants or 50 plants is 25 or 30 bucks or something. You get virus-free plants.
And what nursery is that?
There's lots of them. You go to my website. Remember I said I got selected nurseries, and you go in there and look and see what's available. You just got to check the nurseries all the time. A lot of them are on the website. Anyway, so that's berries. I think there's a lot of potential to grow more berries in Sonoma County and sell them. You can sell them to CSAs that aren't growing fruit. You can sell them to restaurants. You can sell them direct to farmers markets, etc. Now, you can imagine it's a bunch of work because you got to have a crew coming out here picking these and putting them in a basket. They're not going to keep very long, so you immediately want to get them into a refrigeration unit. So you got the high costs of picking and the packaging and stuff, but it's a very high value. Yeah, it's more of the fall-bearing varieties in this climate. And one of the reasons is because when you prune that top back and you just leave that cane there, and this is going to be very variety specific. You'd have to plant a bunch of varieties and figure out which ones do well. But most of the raspberries come from quite cold climates, and they need colder temperatures in the wintertime for winter chilling than we have here. And so we've had them, some of them do really well and some of them do very poorly. And I haven't done enough of variety trial comparison evaluations to tell you which ones. I know the ones like Carolyn, Jacqueline, Amity, trying to think of the other one. There's 4 of them that I know that just do really, really well in this area. They come up and they'll come up with just thick like grass in the spring, and they'll start bearing sometime in late June, July, and they'll bear all the way through till about middle of October. I couldn't separate them like that. that little bit of distance is going to make a difference. In fact, most things, I get asked that question a lot. Well, I get asked that question a lot. What variety does best in my area? And well, the only way you would know would be to plant 40 different varieties and see, and then do a really good comparison. And that's never been done for most of this stuff. So what I would suggest to people is get the varieties that you either like or that have the potential for a lot of flavor or have some other interesting characteristic. So we've got this row of citrus. I just talked to somebody the other day who's thinking about planting 30 acres of Meyer lemons out in Sebastopol, and you know, grilled me on all kinds of things, spacing and different ways to do it. This weed cloth stuff is pretty nice because it's particularly on young plants because it's black and absorbs heat. Citrus likes more heat, but these plants have actually done very well here with almost no care. These are Meyer lemons right here, and then as you get down below, there's some mandarins. Must be some fruit on them down there. For one reason or another, they look really late this year. Have you been picking them here?
I don't think so.
So anyway, it's an interesting crop. It's not, a Meyer lemon's not really a true lemon, but it's an interesting flavor, and it's a little sweeter, it's a little different, and so there's a kind of a unique specialty market for Meyer lemons. And as you get into the restaurant trade and the bar trade, and then people will take these and mix them with olive oil, and so there's a bunch of different markets for Meyer lemon out there. I'm sure it's a very small fraction of the lemon market. But the other one that we can grow is mandarins. There's a couple of different mandarins that are really good, clementine and satsuma, and we have enough heat here that they get ripe, particularly in the warmer parts of Sonoma County. Not much pest problem, not much pruning, so I think it's a pretty good crop. Okay, here's a couple rows of peaches. We didn't talk a lot about peaches. These trees have been here, oh boy, going on at least 15, 16, almost 20 years. I think they're about ready to come out. If you look at them closely, they got a lot of sunburn. Peach trees live about 15, 20 years. And then you just take them out and replace them, put something else in, or have another spot. It'd be nice to rotate. But this is about as big as peaches get. And so they're nice, easy to manage trees. And again, if you've got the right varieties, some of these older, more antique varieties that have really good flavor, you harvest them dead ripe. It's one of these things where you gotta kind of eat them like this, and you get glue all over your gray beard. And if you can do that, people will spend a lot of money for your peaches. You're not going to do it on 100 acres probably, but and then there's varieties of peaches and nectarines that will ripen from probably the 1st of June, maybe even late May, but 1st of June through till about now, actually right middle of October. If you go into the fruit stands right now, you'll just see some of the last peaches. And the peaches don't keep, so even if we get peaches in December and January, they're coming from Shone, usually. So I think it's a good crop too for a small-scale producer. We've got a couple of peach growers in Sonoma County. It would be nice to grow them organically, and you can grow them organically, but there is a disease that we get. That's actually not diseased, but it looks like this. But it turns gray, fuzzy gray. It's called brown rot, and it will also kill back. It'll get on the branches and it'll kill back the branches. We've had some years where we've had more problems with it than others, and it's very difficult to control. Of course, everybody knows about peach leaf curl. Peach leaf curl is really easy to control. Spray the trees a couple of times. Actually, right now will be a good time to spray them just before Thanksgiving or about the 1st of December, and then again right around Valentine's Day, and with copper spray, and you won't have any peach leaf curl. So it's not that big of a deal. But controlling brown, just twice. Pardon?
The copper's organic.
Yeah.
Just twice spraying?
Yeah, it's twice.
How about mineral oil? Is that still organic too?
Yeah, the styloid oil is organic. It actually looks like a nice dried peach. So peaches are actually fairly easy to grow other than brown rot control. If we get a lot of rain in the spring, especially during bloom, and we can in Sonoma County, you'd wish you were a conventional grower. Because then you could spray a regular fungicide that'll last 3 weeks and protect the trees. And if you're not, then you're going to copper and it doesn't work very well. And so, but if we get lucky and we don't get much rain, or just a real light rain or whatever, you wouldn't have to do anything. So it's one of these weather-related kinds of things that give us a little bit of a disadvantage compared to, let's say, Central Valley or Fresno or something like that doesn't get much rain in the spring.
You get a lot of pigs that come in here?
No, because they're all fenced.
Oh, okay.
They would.
There were at one time on the new apples.
So let me emphasize this again. Part of the reason apples are a good crop is they produce so much. Look at how thick these are, and these are just hanging with fruit. 30 tons to the acre, 20 tons to the acre. I even had a grower, and I have a picture of him, I didn't show it, in Alexander Valley who picked 63 tons to the acre in apples one year. So you can certainly achieve 30 tons to the acre. 30 tons to the acre, well, you're going to ask yourself, well, how much can I sell a ton of fruit for?
I think they are.
This is a specialty apple. This is Gold Rush.
These are Gold Rush
This
here?
is Gold Rush.
Looks like a,
Not bad. So it's a scab-resistant apple. Doesn't take a lot of spraying. You'd have to probably do something to control the worms in them, but so you got thinning, you got pruning, you got all those management things, but you're talking about a very high yield, a lot of potential product.
what's the smallest number you could do that would make sense?
Okay, here's tomatoes with the trellis system that I like and I would recommend. As the plants grow up, you just take a string, you go down a ways, and then you weave it around between the plants, kind of make a snake like that. Go around the stake, go around like that. You can see there's kind of keeping the plants here within that. Dips them up off the ground. And it's real easy. It's simple. You just need a bunch of posts and go out and do it. Tomatoes are a good crop for Sonoma County. A good crop for a lot of places. Small scale growers, you're looking at very high yields, 15, 20 tons of the acre. That's a lot of tomatoes. 20 tons of the acre is 40,000 pounds per acre.
Has it been as good the last couple of years as it was?
Well, sometimes.
Out here, is it pretty?
This was a very good year. Last year it was not because it was cooler. Tomatoes like warmer weather. And you can always play around with various cultural practices. Start them under plastic hoops. Get them started, get them going. And one of the things you're going to run into is the heirloom varieties are not disease resistant. So a lot of people have started doing is they graft their tomatoes or buy grafted plants. So you take your green zebra and graft that onto a plant that's Fusarium nematode verticillium resistant. Plant that in the ground, so you've got your resistant plant in the ground, and the top part is the non-resistant part, and they keep a lot there. Here's a crop I recommend a lot for people who are just getting started. Anything that has big fruit and you can space it wide spacing. So you can come in here, till this up in the spring, run your drip irrigation line. I'm talking about winter squash, pumpkins, watermelons, cantaloupes, cucumbers. Run a line out, and you're going to run a line out with this about every 8 feet, something like that. Here's your T-tape. You guys know what this is, right? T-tape. Lay that out there. You turn it on. It's got a wet spot every foot. You go along, even if you had a couple acres, it doesn't take that long because it's not that many lines. Push a seed in. You can even plant them by hand right next to one of the wet spots. And turn the irrigation on, just wet it really good. Let it come up. You have to do some hand weeding where the wet, where the little plant is. All the rest of this out here can be mechanically cultivated. Now you've got at least something that you're growing out there on your property to kind of get you started and get you going. Usually not as much money in it as other more intensive things, and then you start looking at specialty varieties of watermelons and specialty varieties of cantaloupes and specialty varieties of winter squash. You can get a little bit more money for those kind of interesting looking weirdo things. But so part of it would be you know, how do you know which ones to grow? And you know, I don't know what to tell you. Try a bunch of things. That's really the main thing. Go to farmers markets, see what other people have. Try something that they don't have. But then, of course, you think you're gonna grow something that they don't have, then they have it. So, you know, you never really know. But if you're thinking about growing vegetables, my recommendation would be to grow a bunch of different things and see what you like to grow and what works. But you can see going through and harvesting melons or harvesting cucumbers. It's a big thing and it weighs a lot. You fill a box up pretty fast. It's got some weight. You can sell that. Whereas picking cherry tomatoes, you ever pick cherry tomatoes? Or green beans. You ever pick green beans?
No, that's terrible.
Okay, come on.
What's special about Sonoma County olive oil? And the answer is nothing, quite frankly. There are a number of people in Sonoma County who are producing olive oil. They're selling it as a specialty item, but you can get really good olive oil from South Africa and Chile and Argentina and Australia and Spain and Italy. And what's special about Sonoma County olive oil? It's new and it's a nice story, basically.
Well, what about the olive as the fruit itself?
That might be even less special because you pickle it. So, you know, what's special about a dill pickle? Sonoma County.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That's what I was thinking.
Well, he's got a business in Sonoma County, but he could have that business anywhere, couldn't he? And he could get pickles from anywhere, couldn't he? I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's talked to me too. He said,
Yeah.
I need some help. I need to source pickles. And I'm going, well, Sonoma County for sourcing pickles, you're going to take, you know, $75,000 an acre land and grow pickles. Now, maybe you can make it work because he's here and he's making it and he's doing it because he's got a specialty product. But why not go just over the hill to Woodland and grow them in Woodland on cheap land, cheaper labor, cheap water.
That's what he does.
That's what he's doing.
Okay.
Maybe he listened to you.
Well, yeah, you didn't have to listen to me for that. I mean, that's easy. So, you know, you just got to look at the complexities of all this stuff. What really makes it work? We thought when we planted this that maybe this was a really cool thing to do because it's spaced very close together. You can drive right over the top of it with a grape harvester, and you got low hand labor. And you're producing, you know, a fresh specialty item that could be a supplemental crop, and it can be. It's, you know, don't get me wrong. I think there's some potential to do this, but we're finding out more and more and more that you can grow really good olives and produce really good olive oil just about anywhere. And so a Sonoma County olive oil, if I were an olive oil producer in Sonoma County, I would stand up and shout it from the treetops that this is special and better than everywhere else, right? Because that's my job to sell that. But also as a farm advisor, I'm going, well,